And most successful companies share one thing: they develop their people. The Success Launch Point makes it simple with on demand courses, live coaching, and a thriving professional community. Your team will gain confidence, sharpen skills, and deliver more value while staying loyal to the company that invests in them. To take your workforce to the next level, check out modernobserver.com/launchpoint.
We are lighting the candle, a world that works. Hi, everyone. I'm Bill Correll, and I'm here with my partner in world empowerment, Jan Jeremias. How are you doing today, Jan?
Oh, I'm okay, Bill. Thanks.
Quite a weekend. It went by very quickly, but it was very hectic also.
Mhm.
And there's, a lot of background information going around with regard to this nor'easter that we are experiencing. Some are getting more the brunt of it than others. From our standpoint, I don't think there was really much of anything that was a little bit of rain and some wind, but not terrible. But I know some other folks have their internet out or power out, and I'm just feeling blessed about that. Here we are doing our thing.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. I mean, also, like, I never know what to pay attention to because they tend to catastrophize everything,
Yeah.
and part of me is like, do I just not ignore this, or do I just so, like, yesterday, I went in and last night, or, well, yesterday afternoon, and I kinda took out all my stuff that's on my front little porch, like pillows, which tend to blow and everything, and figured that it didn't really take much time for me to move that all inside just to be safe, but part of me was like, "Do I really need to do this?"
Yeah. I mean, there's always that thought in the background. Um, my wife spent a week and a half uh, staining our deck. It was her project that she took on while I was doing pretty much, everything but staining the deck. I was just encouraging her and complimenting her on how nice it looked and everything. But, she goes, out there twice a day to blow the leaves off because she doesn't want them staining her hard work. And it just strikes me as, like, one of those things that's, in the long run, it's kind of futile because the minute that she doesn't do it for one day, it's over. The staining happens. It's how it works, you know?
I can relate to that. I was talking to this guy actually who I was supposed to pet sit for, but I'm still gonna be doing drop-ins, and they have 2 cats, and he told me that they eat on the counter or on the table, and I said, "I remember my first cat would get up on the counters all the time. It drove me nuts, like, I hated it. It just seemed so unsanitary to me." But then, like, I he was black and he had black paw pads and I had white countertops, so I would come home at the end of the workday and see all these black paw prints on the counters, and finally, I just gave up because I realized I could, I was wasting my breath basically, because I would chase him off and he would like, the minute I went to work or left the house or left the room, he would jump back up, and I was like, "It's just not worth the effort." I'll just let him go, and wipe off the counters all the time, which is what I did.
Well, if you think about it, there's behavior modification tricks that you can pull. They hate, walking on, aluminum foil for one thing.
Yeah, or a water bottle people will use, and I think I tried that,
Yeah.
but, you know but I wasn't doing it during he was great, he would jump off if he got on, if I was there to squirt him, but I thought, unless I have an automatic squirt gun, that's gonna, like, squirt him when I'm not home, basically, and so I was just like, "Nah, it's okay, I won't bother doing this anymore." But how much do we do that in our lives though, Bill? Like, where it's almost like as we're talking about this, as we like kind of like we force something that can't be forced, or and we just, it's almost like, why am I still doing this?
Yeah. Yeah, my my thought is to find out if there's something we can spray on the deck that'll make it easier to remove the stains without having to do a power washing, right?
Mhm.
And there might be some sort of an application that we could put on. But I think you're absolutely right. I think there are things that we view as being inevitable that we're constantly obsessing about, if not in action, then at least in thought. And those are the things I think that kind of take us away from the really important now. Um, but it's like there are so many things competing for attention. I mean, just from a family standpoint, I've got a half dozen things that are going on right now with loved ones that it's going to be a while before we have any more information. So it's kind of like a thrownness to being concerned about it. And at the same time, there's not a darn thing to be done or can be done. So in the meantime, maybe just a little quick prayer and let it go away.
Yeah, and I do think that if you can't let it go, offering yourself some grace, because I was talking to a friend of mine the other day whose husband's sick. He has like the flu. But I guess a number of years ago he got the flu and it ended up affecting his heart, and they had to hospitalize him, and it was very scary. So she said to me, I try not to panic when he gets the flu, but it's really hard. And And then I was talking to another friend who has a similar situation with her son, not about the flu, but about illness. And we were chatting about it. And I said, it's almost so hard because because I have things like that, because it creates this physiological response in you. Like your heart starts to race, and it's almost like you have a physical reaction when like you hear some, like for her, she hears the flu and she gets like, all of a sudden her stomach starts to get butterflies, or like a nervous stomach, and her heart starts to race, because automatically we go into that sort of panic mode, and it almost isn't preventable. And we were talking about sort of letting that happen and not getting overly critical about the fact that it happens. I mean, I wake up in the morning, and the morning is like my anxiety time. I tend to be very anxious in the morning.
Yeah.
And I used to get so upset with myself. And I've tried, I don't know, I've tried probably a zillion like methods to like prevent that, from essential oils, meditation, or whatever. And I've figured out some things. And I think the best thing I could do is just like sit back and go, first of all, I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, that tells me I got up this morning because it happened."
Yep.
And to just say, okay, well, that's part of my wiring. And, I do the tools I know so that it doesn't like, so it doesn't maybe get worse or whatever. But I also don't get overly critical with the fact that it happens anymore. Or I try not to, let's just say that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's lots of opportunities to continuously waste energy and thought chasing, good energy after bad. Do you know what I mean? When if there's a way to just kind of complete it and have it just it's going to be there. I know it'll remind me later on. Now I'm going to get back to what I was worried about or looking at earlier. The essence of being present, it just takes a very, very amazing amount of dedication. It takes discipline. It takes being stronger than what's going on in your life. And from that standpoint, um, it's pretty unreasonable to just tell the world, I'm not paying attention to you for a while I'm paying attention to now. You think
Mhm.
about it, That's not something that people can do for more than moments or minutes or maybe even hours at a time. At sooner or later, the impinging force of what's actually happening and going on in the world and the updates of that and the reports from loved ones and others, it has to occupy the space for a moment or two every once in a while. But it just seems to me like there's this sorting opportunity where you can like rifle through your thoughts and then choose the one that you're going to give your attention right now in some cases. And wouldn't that be nice if you could actually make a decision that now I'm going to be concerned about this for a minute or two?
I mean, I love what you're saying, Bill, but also I think that we between all the stuff that tends to that let's say that we're pulled into, all the stuff we're pulled into, and then all the stuff that we hear and the overstimulation or whatever, I think the thing that presence does provide is glimmers of peace
Yeah.
or just calmness in a very chaotic world. And I think about that gift for myself. Oh, here's mine.
So we're pausing for a moment here because we have a guest who's arriving. And Jan, maybe you can take a moment or two to kind of introduce Mike before he comes on, and then we can do it again when he's there. I don't know if he can hear us right now, but his microphone is off.
Yeah. Sure. So I know Mike for, I don't know, a good few years, and Mark is a really amazing, amazing guy. Was in the armed forces and has really worked hard to, I think, reflect and to improve, to work in that self-development and self-help kind of world. I mean, he's a wonderful, wonderful songwriter and creator. So really, really amazing stuff and how he's actually used music to heal a lot of what happened in his life or how is happening in his life.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm here. I'm still trying to figure out how to get my darn video to work here. Okay, all right, good to go. Great thing about being in technology, right? Yeah, you still get frustrated by it, so it's all good. Okay,
Hello, Mike.
it's very nice to meet you, Bill. How are you doing, sir?
You too, Mike. The good news is that for the foreseeable future, this is likely going to be on audio only platforms. So
Okay,
now that we can see who you are, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself, Mike. What's your full name?
so it's Michael Williams. Yeah, that's really helping you out here. Yeah, the great thing about having the name Mike Williams is you can hide in plain sight. But yeah, yeah, full name is Michael Williams, and my background's pretty simple. I've been a musician. I started creating music and playing music when I was 7 years old, and it doesn't mean I'm any good. But from there, I took the very linear path of um, going from a professional musician up in LA, which means I was starving and looking at people that could play a lot better than me, also starving,
Yeah.
to military. And I was a combat medic. I did that for 10 years. I served in special operations. And then the epiphany occurred, Bill, when I was in Haiti. I was working with third group special forces, and a guy on my team got hit in one of the most creative ambushes I've ever been in. And so I'm patching him up, and I got bullets flying past me, and I'm just looking at this as a professional saying they take all this time and energy to make this this amazing ambush, and they can't shoot straight. And it's all about the basics. And it was a couple of days later that I figured out, um, though I was being professional, perhaps I should find a job where people aren't actively trying to kill me as I'm working. And so I spent 25
That's
years
a
in IT.
genuine aha moment, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And, most people would say, man, this guy's stupid. I'm like, yes, I was. All right. But yeah, I figured it out. So, it's all about being able to laugh at yourself and do it with a sense of humility. And so, yeah, that's me.
That's wonderful. And where are you in the world right now, Mike?
So I'm in San Diego, California.
Sweet. I've been there a couple of times. The most recent time was, I think, 1988, by the way. I was visiting relatives there in a little sleepy little community called Poway.
I know exactly where you're at. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's no longer a sleepy little community. Yeah, it's much bigger.
Yeah. They were in a brand new home at that time. Beautiful neighborhood. But you still could see most of the hills, which were breathtaking to be sure. They were in a little kind of a small canyon, if you will. And it was really a nice trip. We wound up going down to the San Diego Bay and took a boat ride. And with
Nice.
my neighbor, a neighbor had their boat out on on the water, and of course we got pulled over by the Bay Patrol because we had way too
Shore
many
Patrol.
people and not enough of anything, in terms of life preservers and all the rest of that sort of thing. And of course, they did have alcohol. There were open beers and everything. So the the authorities were really cool about it. They basically said, you need to go back and put about 5 of these people on the land. Then you can come out here and we don't care what you do.
Nice.
But that was good Lord, 40 years ago.
Yeah. And it's amazing because you're only like 23. So yeah, it blows my mind. Yeah.
You noticed that.
Yes. Yes, I did.
Next birthday, I'll be 23. Yeah. So I'm glad you're here, and I'm very curious. You've got an interesting backstory. You're a musician. Do you play guitar or multiple instruments? What's your favorite?
So I play piano and percussion. And if you know anything about those instruments, they're both percussive. And I started out playing piano. And here's the great thing about playing piano is you could be 3 years old, and as long as you can press down a key on the keyboard, you're playing the piano. And when I chose to go into percussion, and I do mean percussion, not just a drum set, but actually playing in orchestras, which I have for years, I chose percussion for one reason. And it was the same thing as being a kid, being able to press a key on a keyboard. If I can hit the head of a drum, then I'm playing an instrument. And I grew from there in terms of, well, after 10 years, I deployed multiple times in special operations overseas. And I'm fast forwarding you a lot of years here, but it's how I can reflect. It's how I can celebrate. It's how I can unpack things. It's something that I find that I speak a lot better through music than I do through words.
Different language, but very effective communication style, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Definitely sentences and words and thought. You know, when you think about all of the different ways that people play the drums or any of the percussive instruments, from tubular bells on
Nice.
me,
Nice.
it's one of those kinds of things where, like chess, it takes you a minute or two to get how it works, but the rest of your life to really be any good at it, right?
Yeah. And it's something I learned the most when I played in symphony orchestra from these two twins that played double bass, so stand-up bass.
Yeah.
And so they were right next to me. I was playing a symphony, so I was playing timpanis. And they gave me one sentence. They said, "It's not a matter of what you put into the instrument. It's a matter of what you draw out of it." And it changed the way I played for the rest of my life.
Mm. Yeah, it's got very little to do with hitting the right notes, does it?
Correct. Yeah.
So
So
that's remarkable.
I
Go
have to
ahead.
say, just love that sentence, that phrase, um, Mike, because I think you've now changed how I will listen to music.
Well, this is where, Jan, I'm so grateful that you are not a classically trained musician because As soon as I start listening to something, I immediately mechanically start breaking it down, where you can listen to music as music. That's pure.
I think when we do anything, that's maybe we make like I don't want to say that we do as a job or we do as a really as a part of who we are, that's how we do. I mean, I can't take a yoga class without thinking to myself, "Oh my gosh, I really like that sequence," or that the teacher needs to give better alignment instructions or whatever. Like, I mean, I think it's so automatic. I mean, it's very hard to shut off. I mean, I can, but in part of me is always kind of like looking at that. So
Mhm.
I think it's very hard, to separate yourself sometimes into those kind of compartments where you're just like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna," which is, but I still enjoy it. I mean, I think that's the other thing. If it takes the joy out of it, then you've kind of then it's been, like, destroyed in some way if you don't
Like,
find it joyful anymore.
you know, what you bring up and what you touch on, it's the fact that, and Jan, I know your background being that, from a scientific standpoint, your kung fu is much stronger than my karate. That you have so much skill there, and this is where you're walking that tightrope between the mechanics or the scientific nature behind what we do and the feeling, which is the other part. And that's where, I'll relate it to, okay, so growing up in Southern California, my playground was the Pacific Ocean, and I lived just about a mile and a half away from the Pacific Ocean. So my mom being smart, yeah, I got two brothers and three sisters. So it's a Brady Bunch family without Alice. Okay. And so my playground was the Pacific Ocean. And so, when you're a kid, you start out and you're body surfing, or then when you get a little bit older, you get a boogie board, and then when you get a little bit older, you get a surfboard. But the thing that I give to creativity and being able to create art is a lot like catching a wave, where a wave is just it's a sine waveform. Okay, so it's going like this, and it's important where you want to match that sine waveform. You don't want to go too fast or too slow, or you're going to miss it. And that's where the creativity comes from, and that's, through yoga and from other disciplines that I'm very respectful. I'm very respectful of that because I know as I create music, if I try to force it, I'll miss the most important part. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you're playing notes, you're not delivering feelings, and, the feelings is where the magic is. And if you stop and think of anybody that's really good at communicating musically, doesn't really matter what they're playing, anyone can listen to it and get a lot out of it. And people who are, it's, there's Moody Blues stuff, there's, Rachmaninoff, there's, Tchaikovsky, there's Chuck Berry, My Dingaling, it's like it really kinda doesn't matter if there's really a universal message that's present, or a joke, um, the expression of it is really pretty delightful. And I would imagine if you played with an orchestra, were they philharmonic or symphony or both?
Yeah, I played with San Diego Symphony, but that was the best audition I ever had. It's so scary to stand in front of a conductor and it's just you playing. And after I was done with my audition, what I understood is that I read the notes correctly. And I also knew, listening to the other guys that were auditioning, that they were better. Oh, they were much better. But I was reading accurately. And after I was done with the audition, I looked at the conductor and I said, I'm sure you're going to hear people that are more qualified, but I'll be the cheapest person you will ever hire in San Diego Symphony. And I got hired. They were going through a budget crisis. This is like in the 80s. And so I got to play with monsters. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What I learned from just playing with them the orchestra, I was so grateful for.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's over the years, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm thinking about the organizations that all of us get invited to participate in. And in some cases, the most appealing thing that you had to offer at that point was, I can get the right notes and I'm going to be cheap. Now that tells me a little bit about I'm cost wrong self-worth and I mean, really, what could go wrong, right?
Yeah. I figure the worst they could do is say, yeah, audition, some other time. But, yeah, it was a heck of an experience.
Do you really have any question as to whether or not it was your talent or your price that got you the job?
Oh, it was definitely my price. It was definitely my price because it comes down to, I mean, Jan will vouch for me on this, where she can see somebody that is doing yoga and she can see the level that they are at, even though you're making the same moves. Okay. Because it's not the action, Bill, it's the thought behind the action. And that's where I knew I was looking at every single note as I need to make this as precise as possible. And when I listened to the other people auditioning before and after me, it's like, well, they're doing the same thing I am, but they're making it sing. That's the difference.
Well, the other part of it too, Mike, is sometimes it's not important for you to make it sing. Sometimes it's more important for you to play your part of the play and be quietly going about your business while everybody else is doing their part of the play, and then it syncs. Everybody's in synchrony, and you're actually creating music that's greater than what you could do alone. And you found that too, being a medic, I'm sure, that every moment that you're involved with that kind of work means there's the next thing that happens is not an experience you've ever had before. And you got to be ready for whatever comes, even though the emotions or the procedure might take over. Um, Being shot at by people, I haven't experienced that. Um, so my hat's off to you that you could keep your head calm. I have had people try to take my head off, either playing football or actually in a bar fight or something like that way back in the day. I never started it. Okay, let me go on the record right now and tell you that I'm a lover, not a fighter. But every once in a while, something just happens, and a little bit of training helps you be grounded. In terms of being able to keep your cool and not panicking. So here you are with all these diverse, experiences, and what you relate to the most is I'm hearing, the compatibility with a particular wave at a particular moment in anything that you're doing, being able to get the most out of that synchronicity. Kind of a fun way to play life, whether it's on a boogie board or in an orchestra or jumping off of a helicopter to go save lives.
Yeah, I was tactical airborne, and there's only two things that fall from the sky. It's bird poops and dumb poops, and I'm of course editing that for obvious reasons. But you know, Bill, there's no bravery in just being shot at. I can tell you from many deployments that if you're sleeping more than 45 minutes at a time in a day,
Yeah.
and you might have that chance to do that once or twice a day, you're not sleeping more than 2 hours, you know, um, in any 24-hour period. And you become so tired, you become so burned out that it's all about, "Hey, you got a job to do, you're gonna get your job done." And so when I reflect on people saying, "Wow, you're really brave," I'm like, "No, you've not been that burned out, okay?"
Yeah. If you'd have been acting out of bravery, most of the things you did in your life you would never have attempted.
So right. Yeah, there's something that I found. So being a field medic, so being a combat medic, I'm in the field, and it's you figure out how to make things work because all you have is what you got in your bag. So I carry a combat load, the same thing as everybody else, plus about another 50 pounds. It's to take care of the team. And so you don't have everything you need. In fact, you never have the things you need that you get creative. And I'll share with you, there's two things that I'll share with you, Bill. The first is I had a guy, and this is in Bosnia. I did 2 tours in Bosnia. On the first tour, there's a lot of IEDs, a lot of improvised explosive devices on the ground. So I got blown up more than once. My convoys got blown up more than once. And I had this one guy on my team that, we got hit, and I was able to pull him out, and he was unconscious. So right away, you're worried about, head trauma. And I was checking his eyes, so yeah, you shine a little flashlight in their eyes, right? Not a big deal. You're looking for equal and consistent response between eyes, making sure the blood's flowing properly in the brain. He was good and called for a dust off, a medevac. And turns out he had a hairline fracture in his skull that hadn't presented. And when you take a person that has a skull fracture and you increase the altitude,
Yeah.
creates greater pressure on the brain.
Yep.
He almost died. And I still I still hold that shame, but I'll tell you, he gave me a gift. You see, after that, I was thinking, how can I assess cranial trauma in the field without a CT scan? And we were on a patrol and we drove past and in Bosnia, pretty much every town you drive through is just blown to heck. But there was this little music store and something occurred to me. Pulled over, pulled my whole convoy over, all 2 Humvees full, all right? So it's only a 2-vehicle convoy. And I went into that music store, and I got an A440 tuning fork, right? And knowing that this was gonna be a situation that would most likely happen again, and it did, my whole thought was, if I hit that tuning fork and I put it right here on their skull, that vibration is gonna determine if they got a hairline fracture or not, based on a pain response or the stifling of the pain response. And that's what I used for the rest of that tour of duty.
It worked great.
Mm-hmm.
And that was your musical background, and it's a percussive instrument, and it actually has medical properties. Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah, yeah, and it's people look at it like, well, that was brilliant. It's like, no, that's all I had. All right,
Yeah. That could fit in your pack. You were not getting a CAT scan anywhere locally. This for sure.
yeah.
So you did 2 tour of duties, and how long were the tours?
The first tour of duty was 11 months. The second tour of duty was about 5 months.
Right.
And I was in Haiti. That's where, I had the epiphany and it's like, maybe I should look at a job career that, people aren't shooting at me. That might be a better job choice. And
Yeah.
that's what led my transition to IT.
So let me just check in with you. Modern medics, do you still wear a helmet with a red cross on it, or are you not identified as a medical personnel?
It's really based on your theater of operation. Okay.
Yeah, but it's
It's
not identifiable by whoever's shooting at you.
no. And, the reality is, and I mean, this goes back to, the Korean War, where if you're wearing a red cross, you're the first one that's going to get killed.
Right.
So you want to be really careful about how you use that. And in Bosnia, I worked on teams. They were specialized 3-man teams. And according to Soviet doctrine, if they identify one person on my team, they take out a grid square. Now it's a 1,000 by 1,000 meter area. You're not running past it. And in Bosnia, they followed Soviet doctrine. Now, I was definitely under fire more than once within those deployments, but luckily they never used that doctrine on us. Obviously, I wouldn't be talking with you. But you get to that point where you're not scared of um of dying. It's the best way I can put it. That's just you're doing your job, and if that happens, well, then you did something wrong.
It's kind of an interesting way that you said that. Um, I'm kind of, processing that not as like a decision that your job's more important than staying alive, but maybe you just decided that you're not going to put your attention there. That your concern is going to be doing the very best that you can to stay alive and to continue being useful to those people around you and get your job done.
Or spot on, Bill. And it's funny because you're getting towards the end of your tour of duty.
Yeah.
I'm telling you about my buddy Steve Thompson. This was Haiti. And Haitians are so beautifully gifted when it comes to language and art. Oh my goodness. It's just, they are blessed with this. And so my buddy Steve, it's funny, the Haitians, they would always ask you, what is your name? And you would say your name is Correll. Okay. And like, no, no, what is your name? And you'd have to say your whole name. Well, his name was Steve Thompson. The one thing Haitians can't do, they can't pronounce V's very well. Okay. So his name became Stiffy Chompson. And Stiffy, I'll tell you what, he 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 was a guy that just had this beautiful sense of humor, and I was just so blessed to be able to work with him in Haiti. And they are so good at art, we would be on patrol every day. And there was this one artist on this one corner, and he did carved masks. And so we stopped, towards the end of our tour of duty.
Right.
And he asked, "Hey, I want to buy one of your masks," but he knew that this artist had a friend who was a mumbo, a witch doctor. Okay, and that is a real religion in Haiti. And he said, "If I pay you some extra money, can he carve protective symbols on this mask, and I can hang it in my house? My house will be protected." And so we came back a week later and picked up the mask, and uh, the Mumbo was so impressed by him respecting their beliefs that he gave him a little small bottle. In MREs, MREs. I'll give you two acronyms for MREs. All right, it's not meals ready to eat. It's meals rejected by Ethiopians or meals rejected by everyone. But we had these small little bottles of Tabasco. And what this Mumbo had done is he'd taken that small little bottle of Tabasco and taken off the label and cleaned it out. And he put a little bit of mercury in there. And then he sealed it and then tied it with a red ribbon. And he made it very clear so wherever you go in Haiti, you have this with you and you're going to be protected. Now we're getting towards our end of tour of duty. Okay. So you get more superstitious the closer you get towards the end. Okay.
Yes.
Everything's a good luck charm. And about a week later, we were in a riot. He was out in the middle of that riot, rocks and bottles going everywhere. He was in a soft cap. He wasn't in Kevlar or flak vest, none of that. Right. And though rocks and bottles were coming all around him, he never got hit once. And so the next day, when it was my turn to lead the convoy, the question I would always ask before we roll out the gate, Stiffy, you got your bottle? And he's like, got it right here.
So just from a like place and time standpoint, how long ago was this, Mike?
So I was in Haiti in 95.
Yep.
So I served from 90 to 2000 is when I served. I like to call it 9+1 because nobody serves 10 years. I got extended to go back to Bosnia. And so, yeah, I got to go to Haiti. I was in Bosnia twice, was on other deployments around the world. And based on what I did between being a combat medic and what I did working on teams, and when I say working on teams, I should say I, I worked on 3-man teams and we were attached to um, other groups of more elite nature than myself. Okay. But we got to
All
work together.
special forces or just regular army?
So, not, I worked with special forces. Just understand that special operations is this huge umbrella. Okay. So I was under special operations, but yeah, I did have the honor of working with special forces more than once. And I never earned the right to wear a green beret. And so I make that very clear because the one thing I will not stand for is stolen honor. Okay. I know what I did.
That's important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some people have revisionist memories, and they don't do it to impress themselves. But I guess everyone that I've ever talked to that's been in combat has said there's nothing to be proud of.
There's no honor in taking a life. There is no honor in taking a life.
And the greatest honor is to be able to honor those people that didn't make it back. Carry them with you every day of your life.
Yeah.
So since then, obviously you've been busy doing something.
Yes.
What are you up to these days, my friend?
So after I got out in 2000, I spent 25 years, 25 years plus in IT. I still maintain over 16 certifications behind my name, and I work for them. Okay. A lot of people that get alphabet soup behind their name and then they're not worth anything. It's all about doing, Bill, what you're doing. It's connecting,
Yep.
right? It's connecting, taking care of people. Recently, what I've been doing over the last several years is I've been working with the Harmonetics Project. And this is something, coming back and seeing through me. Yeah, I wake up in the middle of the night, I do a perimeter check, make sure everything's secured. And it's not like I think that the Iraqi army is going to come through the front door or anything. It's a peace of mind for me. And it's it's finding a way to recalibrate. So I'll give the example. I'm sorry, my girls, my rescue Belgian Mel is saying I need to pay attention to her. But bottom line is this: um, it's coming back and trying to be normal again. All right, and I still find myself where I laugh and I'm like, yeah, I'm still trying to be normal. The Harmonetics Project, which is something I've been part of now for the last 3+ years, is really it's a blend between ancient medicine, modern neuroscience, and martial arts. It's easy. I mean, you breathe and you move is what it comes down to. Uh, it's something that I've taken on, and it's something that I'm working directly with a Dr. Jeffrey Zimmerman. He's an Oriental medical doctor, and it's free for veterans and first responders and their families.
Yep.
And the bottom line to it is, I don't heal anybody, but we help people heal themselves.
It's all good.
Got a pretty tail.
Yeah, yeah, and it's some people that are much smarter than myself and much more disciplined. They actually looked to get a Belgian Malinois. She was abandoned at 3 months. Somebody dumped it, and a good friend of ours said, "Hey, do you want a Belgian Malinois puppy? She needs a home, and well, we're not going to turn down a stray. So yeah, she's ours now.
Good.
It's something where I know we're coming up towards the top of the hour. Bill, you need to give me some understanding here. I found myself, I look to ground in faith, and what I mean by faith is I'm not gonna, hit anybody over the head with, my beliefs.
Right.
But I understand that there is a gentle healing grace to faith, and that's something I'd love to be able to share with you if that's okay.
Absolutely. I'm always open.
Okay, so what I'm looking to do here then is I am looking to attempt to share my screen here, and hopefully by doing so, I'll be able to share my audio as well. Okay. This is something that I wrote recently that I really look to be able to, if there's one song that I can share with others and it's going to help them heal. This is the song. So if it doesn't play, there's the big punchline. Okay. I'm going to start this. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear. I take it you can't hear that. All right. Okay. Well, I do apologize. I know this platform is something I'm not as familiar with here. So you can see my screen, you can see the audio. You just
I
can't
can.
hear it. Yeah.
It looks pretty intense.
It looks great. I, I just sure wish you could hear it. That's all. This is something, yeah, it looks like in this platform, I can't share my audio. So I do apologize about that. But I'll give you the understanding behind any, any music I ever created. Okay. I'll take you back to some very unhospitable places. And the way it works as a combat medic, it's pretty simple. Somebody gets hit, I get about 5 to 10 minutes of insanity. All right.
Yeah.
Now make sure they're breathing, stop the bleeding, get IVs into them, and then stabilize. And the next thing that sucks in, I got probably 10 minutes of just doing my work. And after that, as I'm waiting for medevac, unless I can transport directly, is we're staring at each other. Okay. And we both got the same look on our faces. It's like, well, now what? And the scariest thing that would happen is I would see guys that were drifting into shock. Their eyes would start glassing over and they'd become fixed. And I'm like, no, no, no. I mean, medically, I've done everything that I possibly can. This is part of harmonetics. There is an ancient form called Fagang, and that's projecting energy. It's projecting energy. And this is something where I never studied it. I found this out working with Dr. Zimmerman.
Yeah.
And that's where I'd put my hand on my heart and I'd put my hand on their chest and I'd say, stay with me. I got you. And I'd be putting every single piece of energy I possibly could into that person. And more of my guys made it. And I take no credit on that. It's just what you learn when you don't have anything else to fight with.
Yeah. It's pretty much all based on energy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's the purest form of communication from one human being to many.
Yeah.
I love it.
I think it's not only one human being to another, because I think that animals do the same thing. There is this, I've been listening to a lot of stuff about Jane Goodall and her work and the different gestures and stuff which primates do, which, you know, they kiss, they support, they hug. They do all these gestures of support and community and connection. with each other, and then, some of them actually interacted with her. But this whole idea of we're not the only species that actually has this ability to kind of to go out and support part of their, whether that be animals that won't leave an animal that's injured until it passes away, or it has the ability to go with them because they're not going to leave some injured animal alone and dying too. So it's kind of beautiful. And I think it's something that we all inherently have. Um, I think human beings choose to ignore it. Unlike, I mean, I don't think animals ignore it. I think in animals, it's very, it's almost too pronounced and too primal to be able to ignore. I think we're the only species that chooses or thinks beyond its capacity. Like, it was a beautiful podcast that she did, and she said the problem with people is they've disconnected their brains from their heart.
Yeah, I think, Jan, that's beautifully said. And I believe we become desensitized. And I believe in extreme circumstances, we find our way back there. Or through conscious discipline, like what you're saying.
It's kind of a lost art until people start doing anything that has an Eastern philosophy. This whole notion of being, we are all one, and it's not a universe that we're part of. The universe is in each one of us. That sense and that feeling. There is no universe without us, and that comes along with maybe some responsibility, and it's maybe a little bit more than most people can wrap their head around. But when you stop and you think about it, you get an opportunity to intentionally focus your energy. Um, we have that capacity, and when people finally figure that out, it's useful and it's useless at the same time. But the the communication of somebody knowing that you're not just pulling for them, but you're actually sharing what makes you you in that moment gives them a reason to kind of meet you with energy. And even people who are not capable of communicating still report afterwards that they could hear every word, or that there was some kind of a change that they felt in their body as a result of what you're talking about. And so if that's available to you in every conversation with every person or every being that you come into contact with, um, it's really communicating and relating to the world on a whole different plane. And I hear, in your general speech that where you are operating from in the world right now is, you've basically gone through the eye of the needle many times and probably had to reformulate who you thought you were and who you intended to be on this planet. So from that standpoint, I mean, I hear you. I definitely hear, your transformation and the changes that have come over you have been both causal by, your circumstances, but also being willing to be a learning being, and being a being in development. Like not really sure how it's all going to turn out, but what happens right now does matter, doesn't it?
It does. And there's there's one word, like, I carry a coin with me, right? And for me, it's for good luck, but really it's just a focus, right? It's just a piece of metal, but for me, it's a focus. And if there's one word I would share with others to carry with them, it's grace.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
And work on that every day. That's work in
So we are.
progress.
Yeah, I'm good for you. And I'll tell you what, it continues to be a work in progress, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it does.
So, Mike, is there any um, maybe a wrap up or something you haven't talked about yet, a concept that you just want to leave people with? for them to maybe get interested in terms of their own lives.
But there's one thing that I'd love people to be able to take to heart. It's that healing is an ongoing process. And that's for the people around you as well as yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. People talk about how dying is something you must do alone. It couldn't be further from the truth. It's as much
Absolutely.
a community process as everything else, and all you have to do is lose a um, really close friend, whether it's four-legged or two-legged, um, especially if it takes a while for it to occur. You start to really understand it really is a shared community process, and the grief that comes afterwards um, is a real opportunity to kind of, I think the word I'm looking for, to be graceful and to accept, and at the same time grow and continue to honor the fact that you're still here.
You say honor, and the word I keep coming back to is celebrate.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful world where we celebrate instead of just get through it.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, my friend. It's been a really great conversation. It's not one that we necessarily usually have. I think what you brought was um, what I would call a really disciplined um, and I think palpable discussion of where you are and how you got here. And I appreciate that. It's a great sharing experience, and I'd like to know at any point if there's anything that I can do to kind of forward what you're making happen in the world or what you'd like to see happen in the world. Um, I'm at your service. Okay.
Bill, I'm honored to be here with both of you. I thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Jan, any wrap up thoughts or anything you'd like to say?
Um, well, I'm reminded because I guess because you guys were talking about grace and, um, every sort of, I want to say every modality or everything has an element of, has a series of steps or has a, you know, where you kind of say, okay, I'm going to begin. So that it has a beginning.
Yeah.
And in the style of yoga that I practice, the first principle is open to grace, is the first principle. And whatever that means for people, I mean, there's no like, oh, okay, this is what grace is. And, maybe that's different every day. So maybe you open to your own grace, the fact, or offer yourself grace, um, which we were talking about earlier, Bill. And then, or maybe it's opening up to a higher power, something that's, greater than yourself. But I think there's something great, no matter how you interpret that word. Like if you could begin your day like that, it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to open to whatever, possibility, grace. Some people think of it as God. Other people, in yoga, we don't tend to use denominations. We don't use the word God that much, but whatever you believe is just acknowledgement.
Jan, you said these words that really hold close, much greater than myself. There's so much power in that.
Mhm. It's multidimensional, Mike, and you just can keep turning it and getting more and more beautiful thoughts and beautiful energy out of just considering the whole notion of greater than myself.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you kind of saw Gemma here in the background. She's so camera shy, but she's running around. I So great to spend this time with both of you. Thank you.
Yeah, you as well, my friend.
Sure.
So, Jan, would you like to make our invitation to Mike and our listeners?
Sure. So each week we end with a request, and it's a simple request. And that request is that if you take a moment during your day at some point each day to reach out to one person and let them know how important they are, that they're here and that they are in your life, and that you appreciate them, obviously.
Absolutely. And you're always going to be the last phone call. That's a very important thing to let people know that you're signing up to be their last phone call, which might be the first phone call of the rest of their life. Well, God bless you both. I will say it again. It's been wonderful with our guest, Mike Williams. Much more than I bargained for when I got on this call a little over an hour ago. It was really, really a very nice trip. Thank you for that, my friend. Jan, I appreciate you in ways you can never understand. Okay.
Thank you.
What you bring into my life and the people that you introduce me to is a blessing that just keeps on giving, and I absolutely appreciate it. So, ladies and gentlemen, for Jan Jeremias and Mike Williams, I'm Bill Correll, and this is Lighting the Candle, a World That Works. So go out and have a great life and come back and tell me all about it, please. Bye for now, y'all.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Lighting the Candle, a World That Works, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can catch every episode of Lighting the Candle, as well as the rest of the network, at exvadio.com, the Apple Podcasts app, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts.